Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining us on this first episode of 2022. Jack Ford has joined the podcast. How's it going, Jack?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very good.
Thanks for being here, Jack. You are here to talk about the main segment of today's episode is all about New Year's and our gaming resolutions. We're also going to discuss the best fireworks in video games. We'll be discussing that and talk about New Year's generally and resolutions in video games. In the news, man, Nintendo Switch selling so much. It's kind of insane. It's ridiculous. It hit a new milestone. And we're going to be talking about that. Some more Remedy, more video game company consolidation with Remedy and Tencent. Best-selling eShop for Nintendo Indies. And more Goldeneye rumors. Hot off the heels of a brand new James Bond film. Before we get started, how y'all doing?
Pretty good. Merry Christmas to you, boys. I hope you guys had a pretty good holiday.
And also
a good,
with you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's put the Christ back in Christmas, boys, all right?
And let's put Christ back in New Year's, too.
Yeah, let's put the Christ back in New Year's.
Happy Jesus New Year's.
No, it was nice to be home. I've been obviously taking a bit of a break from streaming and all that kind of stuff and just been kind of hanging with the family. But it was nice to be back in Austin. Had like a small little New Year's get together with some of my closest friends. And so that was a blast. Got very drunk. Been having a great time, guys. I've been having a great past couple of weeks. It's been good to be off work.
Same here. I've been playing so many video games during the break. So I had like a week and a half off, and I took everyone's feedback to heart, and I played a lot of indies, almost exclusively all indies, with one exception, which was Deathloop. I'll talk about that at the end of today's episode.
That's an indie from the little company called Microsoft.
Yeah, tiny company. Let me know. Hit me up if you never heard of Microsoft.
It's still so weird to me to think of Arcane and Bethesda as a Microsoft studio. I'm still used to that. You know?
It's weird. Yeah.
I've also been enjoying my break. I am also currently enjoying my break. Unexpectedly, my wife went back to work today, the day we're recording this, and we were all set for my son to go back to school, thinking he had started school. And then the night, last night, like at 7 or 8 p.m., I was like looking at his school stuff and realized that he's still off for another couple of days. So I am still on an unplanned vacation, but it's okay. I can do that, and that's fine. And I'm embracing. We just had a really lazy day, so yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What about you, Jack? How was your New Year's?
Good. Yeah. I spent Christmas and New Year. Well, Christmas up in Dallas with my family, and then came back down here for New Year's. Ended up mostly just spending it by myself in my apartment because of COVID. I was hoping to hang out with some friends, but one of them tested positive, and with Omicron around, it just so I stayed home and played video games, which is fine with me. So
the only good thing about COVID is it makes you, if you have inherent guilt, it kind of strips some of that away when you spend all day playing video games. It's like I'm doing my American duty right now by playing a bunch of video games.
Think of your fellow man. Play some more Deathloop.
Got it.
That sounds nice and chill.
All right, so we've got some shout outs from the last couple of episodes because we had a special episode where we talked about Nintendo in 2022. And previous to that, we had our episode where we gave out the Golden Headz, our annual awards episode. This is our first regular episode, as David said, in the new year. So in general, on the Discord, when we talked about Balan Wonder World...
Yes.
Right?
That is the name of the game. Yes.
There was some discussion how everybody thinks it should be Balan Wonderland when we mentioned that on the Golden Headz. As being
it should.
It's the most misspoke title of a game other than, I would say, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest.
You called me out on that. I even put it wrong in like one of our show titles.
Everybody thinks it's Diddy Kong's Quest, but it's Diddy's Kong Quest.
Conquest. Kong.
This is Wonder World, even though Wonderland makes a million times more sense.
But it's the L in Bowin that throws it off. If that was like
it's not-
Bowin Wonder World,
Bowin Wonder World.
then maybe it'd be okay. But it's not.
You took a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
And also on our Discord, I almost said this when we were talking about this, when we were talking about in 2022, Splatoon 3 coming out, and we talked about it coming out for summer in Japan. And I was like, do kids in Japan get off for the summer? But I didn't say anything because I didn't know. But Kuroseta, who does know, pointed out that the summer vacation in Japan is between like late July and late August. So maybe that is a good speculation for when Splatoon 3 might come out.
Which he said he learned from Persona 4.
And on Facebook, Lee Howson, when the awards show came out, said the Goldies are back, baby. Are we calling them the Goldies?
I'm partial to the Headies, personally.
Okay.
I think the better Keeleys maybe also works.
Yeah. Oh no.
And then on YouTube, on our most recent episode, I believe it was, Fake Phantom said they can't believe they just only discovered this awesome podcast. Glad to have you here, Fake Phantom. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Fake Phantom.
Yeah, we love to hear from our listeners and viewers. Thanks, everybody, for posting comments and that sort of thing. We appreciate that. Continue to do so. If you have any thoughts on this episode, leave us a review online. Share the podcast somewhere. We appreciate that. And always remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. And we're going to talk about video game news and rumors. We took a week off from this, so there might be a few extra here, though it wasn't particularly news-filled time with the holidays and everything. So as Matthew mentioned at the top, Goldeneye is back on the discussion about rumors about a re-release happening. And in particular, there's been Wario64 shared some achievement pictures from the Xbox version of the game, where it looks like it's just the original game, right? Like it doesn't look like any sort of remaster, correct? This is my understanding. Or maybe it could be a remaster, but not any sort of like remake or anything. It's very blocky pixel or polygon.
It's hard to say without getting too ahead of ourselves. I mean, it's hard to say because, these are just like achievement images,
So they could
it's
use
like
old ones on purpose.
And like the version that had leaked earlier this year had that kind of Halo Master Chief Collection thing where you can like press a button to switch between HD and original graphics, you know what I mean? Or original textures or whatever. So it could just be it's that mode or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, but
speculation here would be that maybe this was how rare games are coming to the NSO app. Maybe some sort of like you can have Goldeneye and we can have these games for NSO. I don't know. Do you think there could be anything to that?
Like they're coming on both platforms?
Well, more like this is going to be an Xbox exclusive or whatever, or and this is maybe the trade-off was that or something.
Yeah, I don't really know, man. I mean, I think we're not. There's no way to really know. Obviously, like it's all speculative at the moment, but it's like it definitely feels like it. Nintendo would have to pull their end of this to get this game re-released, regardless of whatever platform it's on, right? And so if these are on Xbox Live servers, right, these achievements that got pulled up on, I think as soon as it turned into the new year, some people found them. And it's, so obviously this is coming to Xbox in one way or another. And you hope that it's that kind of the Xbox 360 version that was never released, that was kind of in development hell because of rights issues. But, I don't know if Nintendo had to have a hand in it, maybe the trade-off is like, we'll okay this for you for sale on Xbox or through Game Pass or whatever, but we get it for free essentially on like, the N64 ROM on NSO Online or something like that, or even, the game is just sold bespoke by itself on the eShop or whatever. But I can't see Nintendo not getting this on their system if they had to have a hand in getting it out for Xbox, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, time will tell.
Yeah. This is really exciting, right? Like, are you guys excited for this?
I mean, there's no other time than No Time to Die, which is today. That's a James Bond quote for the new movie because I just watched it. I just think it's like the timing is right because Daniel Craig is just had his last movie It's been a great series. I really like Daniel Craig as James Bond, and it makes sense to revitalize some of the franchise love that people associate with. And I think that close association is Goldeneye in many people's memories.
So do you think they would replace Brosnan with Craig?
Oh, yeah, let's just do all James Bond.
Okay, right, gotcha.
Yeah,
My theory is they're going to re-release GoldenEye and they're going to bring back Pierce Brosnan for the movies.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, he was a good Bond, but he's super gray now. I tell you what, he looks like a mustache twirling villain these days.
I would just think that if they're re-releasing it, they're doing to prolong the James Bond hype as they make another movie, however long that might take.
It's now an Amazon property, by the way.
Did they buy the movie rights?
They bought MGM.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's a James Bond podcast
We're
now.
We're fucked. All right. Moving on. Every year, the last several years, Nintendo has been releasing a list of the top selling indies on the eShop. So these are like digital sales, and they release like 15 titles with no indication of like an order or anything. So we don't know what the top selling ones were. But it's an interesting list this year, I feel like. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to look at this. David, I know you might be interested to see that Tetris Effect Connected is on this list.
Very good.
Spelunky 2 as well is on there. The game Islanders is on there, which isn't terribly surprising because that game's only like $3 or $4.
I almost picked that up the other day. Maybe
I know it's so
will.
tempting because it's so cheap.
Yeah.
On the eShop. I don't know, some other bigger indie games like Axiom Verge 2, Eastward are on there. But a few games I'm not terribly familiar with, like Stick Fight the game. Is that another just cheap game probably or something? I'm guessing. I don't know. Unpacking is on there. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. So yeah, and the game I'm kind of interested in, Ender Lilies. Donnie's been talking a lot about that one on the Discord. I don't know, anything on here jump out at y'all?
I've been playing Unpacking on Game Pass. Still need to finish it. I sat down for like one sitting and got through most of it, and I just need to play the end of it. But it's a great little experience. It's very satisfying and clever. Definitely great to see it on the bestsellers list.
Agreed.
Yeah, Tetris Effect. I don't have it on Switch, but I have it on PC, and I haven't played it since they did the Connected update. So I want to get back into it because I love that game. It's gorgeous.
Do you like multiplayer Tetris?
I haven't really done much multiplayer Tetris, honestly. I mean, other than like I played a good amount of Tetris 99, but, which I guess is the most multiplayer Tetris.
Yeah, I guess technically, yeah. But it's very fun. I really do recommend it, either on Switch or whatever. It's all cross-platform play as well, so there's always people to play with online. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then the only other one that kind of stood out to me was Eastward, which I haven't played, but it looks like such a great game, and I want to play it at some point.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have played it yet either, but it does look cool. Well, now we're going to move into the negative, upsetting portion of the news, potentially, where first up, Remedy has signed some sort of deal with Tencent. So Remedy is a developer that's made Control. What are some of their other games?
Alan Wake.
Alan Wake. So, I don't think they're being bought out, but I think they have come to some sort of deal where some sort of free-to-play multiplayer game they're working on is going to be published by Tencent, or at least the like certain markets and or like mobile version of it. So, just more market consolidation, or Tencent being involved in more and more developers games, which I don't know, as we talk about a lot, it's a little bit upsetting. I don't know if there's anything else to say there. If anyone has any comments.
I always forget how big Tencent is, because like I feel like I don't play many of the games they publish, but they are literally the biggest gaming company in the world. It's nuts.
Yeah, and aren't they sort of like the Chinese, don't they like have internet, like distribution or whatever? What's the
movie publishing or movie distribution, internet stuff. They're like cross media giants. Yeah. I would liken them to like an Amazon or a Google or
Warner
something like that. Yeah,
Brothers or something.
Yeah.
one of these tech companies that are now in like the film and games industry as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Square Enix, apparently the president of Square Enix, I believe it was, put out some sort of New Year's letter where they expressed interest in getting involved in NFTs and blockchain. I haven't done a lot of research into this. I know there was a discussion on our Discord about the wording of what they said and what it means and all that. I don't know if y'all have any nuance here, but just my initial gut reaction as we've talked about NFTs increasingly over the last many weeks.
I don't know if nuance is my strong point when talking about cryptocurrency.
It's just upsetting to hear another large developer be interested in getting involved in this because it doesn't seem necessary and it just seems about making money and killing the earth.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you think this has anything to do with like Final Fantasy 14?
That, I mean, honestly, that would make a lot of sense, right? Like,
Is this where they implement that?
That's really upsetting to think about.
Yeah. Now that they have like an enormous captive audience that have like gone away from like Blizzard.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, moved in and now they're all like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I think it would honestly, like, for me, it would be especially sad to see NFTs go into Final Fantasy 14. I don't play it, but I know the kind of the story of how, Final Fantasy 14 had this kind of rags to riches story almost. Of
right.
Like, they completely remade it and it became this super beloved game. And it has all this, fan goodwill now. And the idea of like, shoehorning NFTs into that, like, seems like a shame.
It's disturbing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I read a really great novel that feels like is prophetic for the world we're living in right now. And honestly, pretty much everything this guy writes like turns true. Neil Stephenson, he's one of my favorite sci-fi authors. He wrote Snow Crash, which is where like metaverse came from. That's where the term avatar originated, and a lot of different kinds of stuff. Right. And then he also wrote this book called Reamdy, which is about it's like this globe-trotting thriller about that's all based around an MMO that's created where people farm gold that then you sell for real money in the real world. And that's kind of like what this whole NFT craze is kind of seeming like it's going to lead up to, which only is going to lead to like tons of corruption and like, fucking syndicated crime and shit like that, like, and so it's like, it just seems like a really bad, it's just like Neil Stephenson needs to stop writing stuff because he keeps giving people ideas. I mean, I love him. Don't ever stop writing. Is one of my favorite authors, but yeah, it's like, I think the president even used the term something like play to earn or something like that. In so far as like playing the game to like as a job. So I don't know. It's a very, very dark future we're all kind of heading towards.
For sure. On that note,
Good recovery.
Lego released a Sonic the Hedgehog set. The next news item is that Lego put out a Sonic the Hedgehog set. So it's hard transition here, but it's actually a pretty cool looking Lego set if you're into Legos and video games. I'm happy to see that Sonic is an actual little minifigure and not a weird Mario abomination like stands behind me right there. But it's pretty cool. Lego's doing all this stuff for adults nowadays, and I think you can kind of like move it around. It's got some nice little details like Sonic's lives listed there and some enemies.
Is it a game like the Mario Lego set is a game?
No, but you can. I think you can. It's sort of modular in that you can kind of build it into different.
So it's like a course, but it's not like it's not a robot.
It's more like a scene. Yeah, that you can kind of put it in a couple different ways, I believe, because it's modular. Cool. But he's got like the Chaos Emeralds there. I don't know, just nice little details for the series. So that's cool if you're into Sonic and Lego.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I wish I could have, but it's like Legos in general are like I love them, but they're also just so expensive. You know, it's like the one that I especially want is the Nintendo the Super Mario 64 one.
Oh,
It's like
that
the pop out
cube.
box
Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm just like, I want that so bad, but I can't justify spending $150 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that the NES with the crank.
Oh
that,
yeah,
like,
that one
plays
too.
the level through the TV as you go.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. But where do you? Well, it's like it's expensive, and then also where do you put it, man? Like I don't have any fucking space to put.
No,
Legos.
totally. I've been to Lego, and I have like bins of them just in the closet. You know, like you can't unless you dedicate a room to it or something. What are you gonna?
I'll put them in the same box as my fucking Labo.
So apparently in Japan recently, and I don't know a ton about this, but there was a like a show on TV that aired where people could vote for like the best video games, right? And Miyamoto tweeted out a sort of like a thank you, because I think Nintendo ranked pretty high on this on this list of, I guess, like top 100 video games that people would like, I guess maybe probably use their mobile phones to vote on this, right? Is that my understanding correct?
It says top 100 console games.
Console games. So there you go. But if you're curious, Breath of the Wild was the number one game. There's some popular ones, Nintendo ones on the top 10 list. Animal Crossing New Horizons on there, Splatoon 2, Smash Ultimate. Not necessarily a Nintendo game, but Chrono Trigger, big game on this for this podcast.
I'm familiar with that game.
Never heard of it. I find it interesting how high like Diamond and Pearl and Sword and Shield are. Diamond and Pearl is like 11, Sword and Shield is 14.
Kids voting? I don't know, but then like Super Mario Bros. 3 is number 10, so like I don't know.
Yeah. It's also interesting that Super Mario Bros. 3 is number 10 and Super Mario World is number 97.
That is weird, yeah.
Yeah, beating out Super Mario World is Apex Legends. I'm just randomly looking at it. Let's see. Let's see. What are some other
what
ones?
else is
Minecraft. Suikoden 2.
Better.
Let's see. I don't know. Some of these other ones actually kind of make sense. So, Dead by Daylight is beating out Super Mario World as best games of all time on this list. So it's definitely weird, but it's also just nice to see Miyamoto tweet.
Oh yeah,
I think he was using the Nintendo account, so it's not like there's nobody to go follow yet.
Like how the tweet starts with "This is Miyamoto" because he has to. But it's
exactly. But yeah, I just I hope to see more from him online. It feels like such a strangely like kind of he keeps to himself, but he's so gregarious, So I want to see more of his personality, like whenever I can.
So now we're getting into the shortages section of the show. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. The Panda, who is teaming up with Nintendo for Smash tournaments, had put out a GameCube controller Kickstarter, which I think looks like a nice sort of modern Wavebird looking GameCube style controller. But apparently they have canceled this very successful Kickstarter, which I think maybe even broke some records in terms of how quickly they collected certain money, or was up there as one of the fastest ones. But due to just not necessarily being able to meet the demand due to shortages. So that's a bit of a bummer, I guess, but it sounds like they have financing and obviously people who are interested in it. So it's just a matter of being able to meet production, which is affecting lots of manufacturers of all kinds of things, including the Switch, most likely, right? There's a Japanese publication that put out some sort of, I don't know the details of this, but I guess Furukawa's warning that the Switch will have some supply issues as well in the upcoming months, which isn't a surprise due to, again, chip shortages and general shortages that are happening.
It's honestly surprising me that it took this long for there to be Switch shortages, given how the other consoles have all been so scarce.
Totally.
Not surprising. now, it just kind of shows that they probably have been building up giant like amounts of this, up to this point, if they're now running into shortages. So that's kind of good. I mean, it means they got through this year and the holiday. So if they were able to do that, probably January, February, March is like the time when you want to have, if you're going to have a shortage, that's probably the best time. So I think it's just good that he's being open and honest about that with everybody at this point.
And perhaps unsurprisingly, but VG Charts, who monitors sales and gives projections and that sort of thing. This isn't an official number, but they estimate that the Switch has sold over 100 million units. I think we got official numbers from Nintendo on December 9th or so, and they were at 92, almost 93 million at the time. So with Christmas and all that, it is very likely that the Switch has achieved over 100 million sales, which puts it up, and according to VG Charts, become the 7th video game platform to have sold over 100 million units.
Edge, and if this is to be believed, which there is really no reason why it wouldn't be, right? If it's not this month, it'll be next month.
By the time we get an official number, it will
right.
be over
Yeah. And so that's great. 100 million is insane. And then also it's, I think the Wii sold 101.5 million, something like that. So it's pretty much now safely, you could say it's, if not already, about to surpass the Wii, which is a huge milestone, especially with like a good number of years still on the horizon for this thing. And it's not really slowing down so much so that they have to announce shortages. That's pretty impressive stuff.
It's mind-boggling of how many Nintendo Switches are out there.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, you're right that by the time we get the next number, it probably will be higher than the Wii.
Yeah, you have to think so.
Yeah. That's insane. The fact that like the Wii always seemed like such an anomaly for how many systems it sold. It was the right thing at the right time, and now the fact that the Switch is even approaching what the Wii sold is, I mean, it definitely goes to show how much Nintendo's turned things around since the Wii U. Like, wow, yeah.
And it'd be. Does anybody know? I can look it up, but does anybody know how many 3DSs have been sold?
I've got it pulled up.
I do too. But yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, 75.94 million.
So it sounds like the Switch has now sold more than the Wii U and 3DS combined, which is what you can really compare it to, right? Because those were like, that was the home console and the portable console that were being sold simultaneously. So like, because it's like you say it sold more than the Wii. It's like, okay, yeah, but they were also selling DSs throughout that time, right? So it's like looking at it in that perspective of like, yo, this has really worked out. You've combined the home and portable pillars, and you're selling more than the last generation did combined. That's pretty great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might be Game Boy, and we'll see, maybe even the DS numbers. Maybe.
Yeah. Good time to have a Nintendo Switch podcast. I'll tell you that.
It's a good point too.
We're millionaires.
It's a podcast work. Yeah.
We get a cut of every Switch sold.
Yeah. Anything else on that before we move on? No. Well, that does it for the news then. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about our gaming New Year's resolutions and New Year's in video games. Okay, we are back, and this week we are talking about gaming New Year's resolutions and New Year's and fireworks in video games. So it's 2022, and maybe you, listener, are baffled by the idea of a gaming resolution, but we're doing it. What, maybe what games in your backlog you might want to beat, or what games you're planning to play when they come out this year, or if you're into competitive gaming, something you want to achieve in terms of that. Anything maybe related to the podcast. And also me and Jack both are work in video games. So like maybe some career related things or stuff like that. And then, at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about fireworks and video games, maybe in-game New Year's celebrations, and maybe any New Year's related gaming memories, if there are any. I don't know if I have any, but if you've got any, feel free to share.
I mean, we could talk for a whole hour and a half about fireworks and video games.
That's probably true.
We figured we'd spice it up for the listeners here tonight. Yeah.
we'll just give you a little taste of it. But does before we came up with this idea for this episode, did y'all already have anything in mind for goals or resolutions related to video games, or did you pick some because we picked this? Just curious.
I'll go first. Yeah, I think for me, generally, it's just playing games in a genre that I'm not used to. I think like games that come to mind are like Doki Doki Literature Club or like Phoenix Wright. Those are games that have been in my orbit that people have played. Patrick, you talk about Phoenix Wright all the time. People talk about it all the time in Discord. Just it's never appealed to me in a very compelling way. And so one video game goal and resolution that I have for this year is just to play different styles of games that are kind of new.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know that I had any like gaming specific ones, but and this is kind of like not gaming, this resolution. It's kind of the opposite, but it's like, this past year doing this podcast, doing a lot more streaming and everything, I've just been like playing a lot more games, or like watching podcasts and playing my Switch or whatever, right? And whatever. And I think for me, it was almost just like, I'd like to branch out a little bit more back into like, there was a couple years ago where I was like, I want to read a lot more books this year. And then I did. And I read like 20 books that year or something like that, which was awesome. And so it's like, so that's just something I'd like to do, is branching back into other media a bit. Cause I felt like last year, like a lot of my media consumption was like dominated by games, which is great. And I don't want to stop playing games. There's a ton of games in my backlog that I could tackle, right? That I still want to, but I think like, I'm getting back into like reading books again. Like I started a great book the other day that I'm really enjoying. And so it's like, hey, whenever I go on walks, instead of just keeping my head in Pikmin bloom and listening to podcasts, maybe put on an audiobook or something and then pick it back up when I get home. So that's kind of like something I'm trying to do this upcoming year.
Well, I guess the impetus for this idea also comes that I always do this, and I always do a thing. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've been doing something called 12 and 12, which I found on Reddit. And I don't know if there's similar challenges that people do for like movies and books, I think as well. Like I had a coworker one year do 365 movies in 365 days. And the goal is to watch at least, and he exceeded it. He watched like 370 movies or something in a year.
It's a lot of movies.
Yeah. So the idea with 12 and 12.
Did he play his Switch during all of them?
I don't know. He listens to the show regularly. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
But this idea is that basically you pick 12 games in your backlog to beat this year. And it's theoretically a doable number. 12 months. You give yourself a month a game, depending on some games. So I've been into that challenge, and also because a lot of us here on this podcast in this community have a tendency to buy games and maybe not play them, and it's kind of one of my things that I've tried to do is curb that a little bit and maybe beat some games before buying
games on the eShop is still my favorite game on the Switch.
So yeah, I have a lot of things I can talk about, but just briefly, the big picture one that I always try to do and that I often fail at is beating games I already own, or at least playing them. Like, because there are games that I own that I've never even fired up. Like, right? Yeah. Like all of us probably. But we're
all waiting for that day when we're marooned on a desert island with an AC adapter, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like, I know someday I'm gonna need this growing library.
Yeah. Someday I'll get to No More Heroes 3.
Or 1 and 2 for that matter.
Yeah. So I actually have Doki Doki Literature Club on my list of games to beat this year, because I have that waiting for me. I have a number of games that are on my backlog that I have kind of planned to beat this year, though I never actually achieve my plan. I usually beat more than 12 games in a year, but the years I've been doing this, I almost always, there's games I put on there and still don't play. They sound good in theory, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think that's the like most important part of New Year's resolutions, right? Is not beating yourself up if you don't do them, because it's just a little affirmation you're giving yourself at the beginning of the year, completely arbitrarily.
I didn't beat God of War 2018 this year.
Hey, it's not on the Switch, so who cares, man?
I did start it though. But anyway, so yeah, I always think about that. And then also it's always complicated by doing this podcast because I want to play a lot of the big Nintendo releases. So that always takes up a big chunk of my time. So I always try to kind of factor that in, but I got other ones, but yeah, that's sort of the impetus for this. Is there anything anybody else wants to talk about? Jack, is there anything, do you think about this at all? Or when I asked you to be on the show, did you come up with some things?
So yeah, coming into this, I don't usually have like gaming related resolutions. I tend to be pretty I play fast and loose with the kind of games that I play, but I try to play as many types of games as I can because I want to kind of, get an idea of what sort of games are out there and learn from other games, especially as a game developer and as someone who helps, teach about games writing and things like that. I think the more kind of references I have, the better. And so I like this past year was the first year I started keeping track of every game that I play, and I write down like what game it is and the day that I start playing it and the day that I finish it. I started way more games this past year than I finished, but I'm kind of okay with that because it's more about like getting a sampling of things and then finishing the games that really connect with me, that I really like, But as far as like resolutions, the only thing that was kind of gaming related that I already had on my radar was I want to get in shape this year. I want to start losing some weight, and so I want to start playing more VR games. I already have been playing a lot of Beat Saber the past couple years, especially like during the pandemic is when I picked it up and I got really, really into it. And so I want to start doing that more regularly for exercise and branching out in that sense and finding more VR games.
Have you played Pistol Whip?
It's on my radar. I was actually just looking at that like a couple days ago, thinking this would be another good one to add to my VR collection. Definitely.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like Beat Saber. It's like Beat Saber and super hot. Yeah, lots of guns, lots of shooting. to beat.
Anybody have Ring Fit Adventure on their list of games to play more of in 2022?
Listen, Ring Fit Adventure. I have it.
It's hard.
It beats me up so bad. It's so tough. It's just the running in place that does it for me.
Yeah.
I get out of breath so quickly, and like I have it set to like the lowest difficulty. Yeah. It's like, you know what, maybe I'll come back to Ring Fit Adventure after I'm, a little more in shape.
after like a couple months of hardcore Beat Sabering.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard when you're on a second floor to play that game as well, because you know you're just shaking the entire building. And so I worry about that when I play that game.
Well, also on my personal list is something you were kind of talking about, Matt, and that's to play, and also Jack, you were talking about this too, to play more different kinds of games. But one of the realms I feel like I'm not very aware of is mobile games, and I'm not necessarily interested in like gacha games or anything, so I'm going to avoid that. But maybe the bigger narrative games that come out on mobile. I have access to Apple Arcade. I never use it. It's through my brother-in-law, but I want to make better use of that. And even if I don't, as we kind of talked about, necessarily finish every game, I want to. So if anybody actually has any recommendations of good narrative mobile games or things that are on Apple Arcade.
It's not narrative, but you should definitely play Grindstone, Patrick.
Yeah, that's on Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
I keep hearing about Grindstone. I haven't played it yet, but
I'll talk about it later in the show, but it's very good. Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of similar to what y'all were saying.
There's that other RPG that's on there, Fantasian.
Yeah. You should play Fantasian, Patrick. I want to hear your thoughts on that game.
Okay, I'll make a note. I've never heard of that one.
By one of the Final Fantasy directors. And it's got a gorgeous style, unlike anything I've seen before. I think it's like photos of real sets and backgrounds that they created, and then the characters run around in it as like
Yeah, they're all photos of
JRPG.
like dioramas.
I really enjoy playing Smash Ultimate, and so I'm always trying to get better at that. And so I kind of want to continue getting better at that game. I don't have any specific plan, but I also want to get better at Splatoon since Splatoon 3 is coming out. And I know I never felt like I was that good at Splatoon 2. I just enjoyed it. And so I've been thinking about playing Splatoon 2 in anticipation of Splatoon 3, and maybe trying to just improve. And like I always just stuck with one weapon. I don't know what y'all
same. Yeah,
think
that's
about
my
that.
main problem with Splatoon
Yeah.
2.
Right.
Yeah, I only
think-
know how to use the splatter shot, Junior.
and I'm not even that good at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I feel like maybe I need to just like suck for a while at that game, and maybe I'll be in a little better place when Splatoon 3 comes out, because I'm expecting we'll probably have a lot of community events around that, and it'll be pretty big. So that's on my list as well. David, do you plan to continue streaming? Do you have any thoughts on that for resolutions?
Yeah. As far as streaming is concerned, I basically it's like I just want to get back to a regular schedule in the immediate, right? Like I feel like over the past month with like the holidays and everything, I just kind of like dropped a lot of streaming, and it's like there's been a lot of like life event stuff happening, so it's been hard for me to keep up a streaming schedule. So it's just like getting back to that in the new year. Like hopefully, I mean, I think the day this episode comes out Wednesday, going to start up again my kind of twice a week stream schedule. And it, I've never been one to like just like slam a game over like a few weeks. I kind of still like doing a lot of random stuff. So I'll probably do that. Potentially buying a new computer this year, because I am still streaming off of my like shitty MacBook Pro. It's not shitty, but it's like old, right? And so it like struggles. I don't think people watch my streams for the frames per second or the bit rate. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, so I'd like to do that, and then just really keep it going. It's like, especially at the end of the year, I felt like I was getting like a lot of support and a lot of like subs and stuff like that, and then I just like stopped streaming for all of December, and so I felt bad like wasting people's subscriptions. But it's like, yeah, just getting back into it and being consistent with it. I'm not. It's funny, we were talking earlier about like beating your backlog and stuff like in the new year, and I feel like that's very often that's a totally fair and acceptable New Year's resolution. I've abandoned that fight like long ago, and I don't I know myself, and I'm like okay with the fact that I pick up some games and I just never beat them. I don't have to beat every single game that I play, so that's not really a huge resolution for me per se. But I think just like keeping the variety up, keeping what's going that I think is working going, like that's kind of like what I'm looking forward to as far as gaming and streaming is concerned. Oh, also emotes. I'm going to get emotes in the new year. That's my streaming goal.
As a podcast related goal, I would like us to do more in-person events or to hang out with more of our community. I know we went to the Final Fantasy VII concert. Was that October?
I think so, yeah.
Don't ask me, dog. I'm tapped out. Tapped out on time.
How does time work? So maybe, Patrick, you're talking about Splatoon. Maybe we organize some events around that, and then Smash stuff.
Hope so.
Assuming that there's not a new variant in a couple of days.
Yeah. That sounds great. I that like in-person stuff is so dicey right now, and to like plan for it. But I think you think in a year ahead, there's got to be some chances for that, right? So hopefully we can do that.
I don't want to bloviate about Omicron right now, but hopefully a bunch of people getting this not so bad variant makes it to where if you get it in the future, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? That's the hope.
Yeah.
Are we talking about podcast?
Sure.
Resolutions?
So you got a podcast goal for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been talking about this for fucking ever. And Donnie keeps bugging me about it, but it's like a Patreon, like I'd love to get a Patreon going and actually like make some money. I mean, not like, and nobody has to do it obviously, but it's like, doing some stuff to help grow. Right. It's like, I think that, we've been putting so much like free time into this show to the point where it's like we all work full-time jobs and we can't produce, not that our Patreon would like take the place of our full-time jobs, right? But it's just like putting some of that money into growing the podcast more, right? Advertising, getting it out in front of the right people, stuff like that. All that stuff like costs money. So it's like a Patreon, merch. We've been talking about doing merch for a long time. I think 2022 is finally the year. We're going to get y'all some fucking shirts and hats and shit you guys can wear. If you guys are listening to the podcast, if that's something that interests you, we've got a lot of requests for that. So stuff like that I'd love to do in the new year. Not to get too circle jerky, but that's kind of
it's worthy.
Some podcasting goals for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And sort of, I mean, is there anything else for the podcast specifically?
Shirts and hats is a great start. I want a Super Switch Headz hat. I would wear that shit.
Yeah.
I want 1K subscribers on YouTube, but we can't control that. So that's just like,
yes, we can. We'll just buy them.
I'll
buy them with
create
Patreon money.
900 accounts. Anyway,
if
what
we
about
get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll do Legend of Zelda erotic fan fiction.
Yeah. We will make NFTs and give them to all our subscribers for free.
Well, Jack, I know you work in the industry. Do you have any career related goals for this year that tie into video games?
I'm kind of in a place where I'm just like wanting to get enough work to support myself. That's kind of that's the primary goal. But beyond that, I'm hoping to within the next like 6 to 9 months put together I'm working on a personal project, a game. So just a short kind of like 1 hour long experience that I'm working on my free time, just to kind of get experience in all aspects of game development and figure out kind of what I enjoy most and get something to put on my portfolio. And
are you planning on trying to distribute that yourself and everything as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably just like upload it to itch essentially. Not it's this is more of a like getting practice and doing something that I enjoy type thing rather than a like actually trying to make make money off of it or anything.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely the big kind of personal creative goal for me this year is working on that.
Can you give us any hints on what your game is about?
I would give you more information if I had more information in place, but like essentially it's going to be like a kind of a first person like narrative mystery adventure game essentially.
Love that. Yeah. Sounds awesome.
Well, similar to you, Jack, I am going to have to get some more work. So I need to get a job at some point this year, and hoping that it will be as a game writer, or that I can get enough short-term work, like some of the stuff I've been doing, and get more regular with that, so that can actually be enough. But I expect that I will need to get some sort of job sometime later this year.
That freelance life, man. Like
it sounds great. If I
did the freelance
happen.
life, not in video games, but I did the freelance life in like film and audio engineering and editing and stuff like that for years. And it's like, you make it work, right? And you're always like, at the end of the year, like, holy shit, made it work somehow. But it's like, it's a grind for sure. Yeah. It's tough.
But similarly, just could be working on my portfolio and stuff for that. But so that covers a lot of the stuff I had on my list.
Were there any I'm curious to know if you guys have any. We talked a little bit about backlog games and stuff. I don't know if are there any specific games that you guys have like on your list that you've really been meaning to get to and you just want to get to this year, or like maybe any games that are coming out this year that you're super excited for.
Yeah, I added a few to my list. I created a spreadsheet, I think back in September, and then added a bunch more during the break. But there's this Reddit post about what movie do you think everyone has seen? And it listed a bunch of common movies like, Jurassic Park, Empire Strikes Back, Ghostbusters, all of those things. And that just reminded me of games that everyone thinks that they have played, but there are many games that I haven't played. And one of those is like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I've never played that game, but it's on my backlog and plan to play it this year.
It's like $3 on mobile if you're cool hooking a phone up to your or a controller up to your phone.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll follow up on that because mine's also a Metroidvania. I'm gonna finally put more than 5 hours into Hollow Knight this year. If there's one backlog game that I keep picking up and then just immediately putting down, it's Hollow Knight. And it's like now that I slammed through 5 Metroid games and actually played them to completion last year, I feel like I'm like back in the Metroidvania itch. I'm like ready to go. Yeah, so at some point this year, Hollow Knight and maybe Final Fantasy X too, because that's one that I never actually beaten. That's no one I've never actually beaten. And that's another one I keep firing up on my Switch and then playing for like 10 minutes and then stopping. But we'll see. Hopefully I can play through that, but we'll see.
I've got Hades. I've got like my 12 and 12 list, and I won't bore you with all 12, but like
you could slam through them, Pat.
It's kind of a work in progress because I haven't committed to this yet, so I'm also hesitant for that reason.
Toy boxing, toy tennis.
It's just worldwide classics. Yeah.
I'll play all 51 plus piano.
Hades is on there. I've never played Hades, and everybody raves about Hades.
It's very good.
And so I intend to give Hades a fair shake this year. Yeah, that's maybe the biggest one that I'm thinking about.
Tease us with one more.
Tease you some more. Okay, yeah. Well, I've got some, like, it's easier to beat indies, so I've got a number of indies on here that I own but have not played. So I've got Dandara on the list, Ori and Will of the Wisps, Mark of the Ninja. I love
Ori. Ori is like, so
good.
both the Ori games are great. I think the second one is a significant improvement on the first. I love both of those. Yeah.
I've beaten the first one, but not the second one. And shout out to KSBOKC, who just talked about it on our Discord, I believe, as well. So I've been meaning to. I own it. I just haven't played it. It's on the list for this year. I'm gonna play it. I really
good.
Yeah. So I got other ones, but yeah, that's a lot of them.
What about you, Jack? You got any backlog games you want to
play? Yeah. So one of the things that I want to do is kind of like what you were saying, Matthew, about games that kind of everybody supposedly has played, that kind of your list of shame of games that like everybody has like quote unquote supposed to have played, that
right.
There are a handful of Nintendo games, like classic Nintendo games, I want to go back and actually play or finish. I love the Zelda series, and I've played most of the mainline games, but the two biggest ones that I haven't played yet, I've played like halfway through Twilight Princess, so I want to finish that, and then I've never played Majora's Mask, so I need to get that.
Majora's Mask is on my list too.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I think I'm going to play that.
Should be out this year.
Right, when it comes to NSO.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. And then the other one is I'm halfway through the original Metroid Prime on GameCube, and then once I finish with that one, I love it. I just haven't gotten around to finishing it. And then fingers crossed that we get Metroid Prime Trilogy HD this year, so I can play the other two. If that doesn't happen, I'll probably just buy it on the Trilogy on Wii U.
Yeah, that's like a stream game. That's like a game I'm planning on streaming this year, right? Like, because I've got like retro games that I've never beaten but want to on my like kind of gaming resolutions, right? So it's like Prime Trilogy, and I just modded my Xbox Series X as well, or I added the RetroArch to the developer mode. So it's like, So I want to get Metroid Prime Trilogy up and running on Dolphin on that, because you can kind of use it like twin stick. It's kind of turns into a twin stick shooter on that. So I want to play through those on stream. And then another one I've been wanting to do on GameCube is Twin Snakes. Because I've never actually played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, and that's been one that I've been wanting to play for a while.
Wow.
And that feels like, yeah. I mean, it's like it's one of those series that just completely passed me by, right? And so it's like I'm well aware of it as a part of the cultural zeitgeist, right? But I've never actually, I've dabbled in both. I own Twin Snakes on GameCube, and I've played it on PS1, but I've never really gotten that into it. So that feels like a pretty good stream game for me as well.
Well, you need to go all out. You need to get an MSX, and you need to play the original Metal Gear.
I'll only do the Game Boy Color Metal Gear game. That's the only one I'm gonna play.
Metal Gear is also on my list. I've played the original PS1 Metal Gear Solid, but I also have the PS3 collection that was like, I think 2, 3, and Whatever the other one was. I think there was maybe a PSP game. I don't know.
Yeah, Portable Ops maybe.
Acid.
Yeah,
Or
I
Acid.
don't know.
Yeah.
One of those. Anyway, it's 3 games, and I want to start playing some of the other Metal Gear Solid games. Because I feel like that's another one that's been
I
on
love
my
Metal Gear so much. It's
list for so
so
long.
weird. It's such a weird franchise. It's gives me so much joy of how fucking weird Metal Gear is.
I imagine it's gonna be like that year that fucking Napoleon Dynamite came out, and it was like everybody in the world was like quoting the movie like around like my high school or whatever, or middle
Mhm.
school. And then it's like, and then you finally see the movie and you're like, oh, I know all these lines already. You know? I feel like it's gonna be like that. It's like, oh, okay, I know all these
Oh, he's
moments
in a
from the Metal
box.
Gear Solid
Yeah.
series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally experiencing it for myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That I had that similar experience with like people quoting the famous bad translation of Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It was like, what is,
Right.
what is a man? I was like, oh, this is from this game, but I've only seen it in text form in comments on Reddit.
Yeah.
yeah.
It depends on what version you play, because there are like multiple versions of that cutscene that exist now. Like there's like the original, which is like where a lot of the stuff comes from, and then they've like redone like all the recordings and lines for subsequent re-releases. So you got to like,
So what
you
about
gotta
the
play through
mobile
all
one?
of them, Matt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think the mobile one is the re-records, but I think you might be able to toggle it back to the original recordings. I'm not sure, but yeah. you
Just to
could
be
do it.
clear, that the quote I'm talking about is like, what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets.
How about you?
How about you?
Yeah.
Enough talk. Yeah. Yeah, that's an excellent game. I've got a couple more on my gaming resolution list. One is I'd like to just play more Game Pass games, right? Like I was saying, it's like I'm okay with starting games and just abandoning them. You know, like I don't need to play all games through to completion. But it's like I have had Game Pass now for like almost a year, or maybe even a year and a half at this point. And it's like I felt like I didn't play it last year as much as I actually wanted to like get the value out of, you know, buying 3 years up front of Game Pass, right? And so it's like, so, you know, I just want to like sample more games. And there's like a lot of games that I pick up on Switch that are on Game Pass that I should just play on Game Pass, right? And so it's like, I think just broadening my horizon, that's an easy way to do that, right? Like I just downloaded one, I think called The Pedestrian, that just dropped today.
Pedestrian's great.
It is great. Cool. I'm looking forward to
it's
playing
excellent.
it. Yeah. I'm a big puzzle guy. So that I like to do that. One of my gaming resolutions is to get a Steam Deck.
Yes.
Another thing that is
Yes,
outside
like,
of our
okay.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that happens. But it's like just and just vice versa, like just getting back into PC gaming. You know what I mean? And like I've got this huge library of Steam games that I never play these days anymore because I don't ever really fire up my gaming PC. And so it's like, you know, just again, it's like a lot of those games that I want to buy on the Switch that are indies came out on Steam like 10 years ago. So I might as well play them on there, you know? So stuff like that is some stuff I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I just started using Game Pass for the first time this year because I've always known that it's like obviously a really good deal, and they've got a great selection of games, and it's only gotten better over time. But you know, for a while it was like I've already got too many games in my backlog that I already own for me to justify paying subscription for, you know, for Game Pass. But then like this year they started releasing a bunch of games that I knew I wanted to play, but I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to like wanted to like actually purchase them outright. So that was a great so like I played Psychonauts 2 through Game Pass, which is probably my favorite game last year.
Great fucking game.
Excellent. I played 12 minutes, which was worth the price of Game Pass for me because I'm glad I didn't actually buy it. Because geez, that game.
Yeah, I've heard the twist in that game is disturbing.
It's just not. Yeah, it's disturbing, and it's just not that great of a game, unfortunately, if you ask me. But and then The Forgotten City is another one I played in Game Pass, which is another great game from last year.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, man. I love being able to like sample things and then find these little gems. And it's like the day one releases, especially for indies, you know, that it's like it's going to be really hard for them to get the kind of exposure they need because they're really niche games. Like having a life on Game Pass is like amazing.
Well, anything else? And anybody have any other resolution they haven't shared they want to make sure and get in?
Maybe from a greater game industry, maybe for Blizzard, maybe they will finally fire Bobby Kotick.
That's on
Yeah.
my resolution
Fingers
list
crossed,
is to fire Bobby Kotick, which I do have the power.
Yeah, we all do.
Why haven't you done it yet? Come on, David.
I'm trying to get it to a boiling point.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
maybe
It's
our
not already at a
resolution-
boiling point.
Yeah, no, it is.
Our resolution that we have control over is to continue talking about it so that he can be fired.
We know Bobby listens to the show. Yeah.
All right, well let's move on and talk about New Year's and games, in particular the thing we're all excited to talk about, fireworks in video games. So does anybody you want to start us off, or I'll tell you what, I will. Fireworks are all over video games, right? But when I think of fireworks in video games, I think about Super Mario Brothers first before anything else.
The original. Yeah.
The original, and beating a level. What is it that makes the fireworks go off? It's not fast beating it. It's a certain time ending. Is that right?
You have to have like a certain like digits in the time
Yeah,
that
isn't
you
it
finish
2?
it. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
But it's like one of the first like gaming Easter eggs. You know what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
what
Yeah,
does this?
Mario Wiki says at the end of every level in Super Mario Bros., with the exception of a castle level, fireworks go off when Mario or Luigi enters the tiny castle if the last number in the timer when hitting the flagpole is a 1, 3, or 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The number of fireworks is equal to the last digit of the timer.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Because yeah, when you're a kid, or when I was a kid and it happened, and you get 6, you're like, I did awesome.
It
You know what I
doesn't
mean?
fucking.
But
You
it's
just wait until the
completely
very
random.
end and hit
Yeah.
the pole.
It just
Yeah.
made me think like I must have really killed that level because they get a bunch of fireworks. Because
Yeah.
it does feel like celebratory, but it's random.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that it's
yeah.
still the most realistic fireworks in video games.
Just graphics are just impeccable.
The sound especially. It's just like
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, anyone want to go next? Is there any
Think-
fireworks in video games you think?
I love fireworks just the same reason that everyone loves them, because they're so pretty to look at, pretty to watch. Just reminded about like Joe Pera has a long going bit where he talks about fireworks and the stages of watching fireworks, and the first two always get me. It's like stage 1, wow. Watching fireworks, you just have wow, and then stage 2 is remembering the last time that you watched fireworks.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when I see fireworks in games. It's like, man, these are great. And so I'm reminded.
If anybody had Matt talking about Joe Pera on your bingo card, time to scratch it off now.
love that fucking show. It's such a good show. It's fucking incredible.
I have some fireworks games. Or
Yeah,
games with fireworks. I have one that is a fireworks game. Do you guys remember Fantavision for the PS2?
Yeah,
That game was awesome.
that showed off
Yeah.
some of the emotion engine for PS2.
Yeah. So that was a launch game for the PlayStation 2. It was the first PlayStation 2 game I ever played. Got it on launch with the PS2 whenever it came out, or that Christmas anyway, whenever we opened it up. Right. It was the first game we played. And it's just a game where you just explode fireworks. And that's the whole game. And it's like, I don't even know what you would call it. It's not really a rhythm game. It's not really a puzzle game. It's just like aim for the things and explode them. But it was really fun. I have great memories of Fantavision, and I really enjoyed it. And at the time, the graphics were like incredible, even though it was just lights and particle effects in the sky, right? But it looked great, and it felt great, and it felt like it was like, oh shit, we're in a new kind of generation of games. So I loved Fantavision. I played it a lot. And then I have 2 honorable mentions because that's my number 1. I'm still in Switch, the golden heads mode.
The headies.
Yeah, the headies. The heady for honorable mention for best fireworks game goes to Forza Horizon 5. Because I love just like if you're ever lost and you're like, where am I supposed to go? Where's like the hub? You just like look over the horizon and you find wherever the fireworks are and you just drive towards that. And they just look super realistic because everything in that game looks super realistic. And then my last one would be Peggle. Just like anytime you like finish up a game of Peggle and the like, like Ode to Joy plays and the fucking fireworks go off. It's always so hype. So those are my favorite fireworks games.
Jack, do you have any games that you think of when you think of fireworks in a video game, or any favorites?
Well, I mean, there's definitely the kind of, I feel like the obvious one is Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and especially for New Year's, because that's the only game that I associate with being like a New Year's video game, because they have New Year's in it. Yeah, and I've done that a couple times. I remember I did it with New Leaf, and then I did it last year with New Horizons. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to be like to open your Switch and like there's like a party there, and you're just like, oh, I have friends here that I can hang out with and celebrate, and there's fireworks and it's nice, Yeah. So Animal Crossing, of course. Beyond that, I always like it when like somebody, like a bad guy, blows up in a video game and it's fireworks. Like Super Mario 3D World. Like at the end when you beat Bowser, he blows up into fireworks and everybody's like, yeah.
There are great fireworks all throughout 3D World.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then the one other that I thought of was, not strictly speaking fireworks, but I feel like I associate with fireworks because it has that similar sensation, is the Ratchet and Clank games. So many of the weapons are like so like explosive and bombastic, and like in the 2016 one, when you get the Rhino, the kind of ultimate weapon that you get in every Ratchet and Clank game, it like shoots missiles that like, they kind of go all over the place, and they have like kind of almost fireworks like explosions, and it plays like I think the 1812 overture whenever you're holding down the trigger, and it feels very fireworksy to me, even if So.
Yeah, that's great.
Man, talking about fireworks is so fun. It's so fun. It's just like such an enjoyable experience. Generally, my interactions with fireworks are mostly positive. They've only like a small fraction of the time fireworks. So it's almost always good. And I think that's what everyone's association with fireworks, with exceptions if you own pets. Or
fireworks murdered my family and stole all my money.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of fireworks, and the older I get, the less I'm into them. But
fair.
Oh my god,
video game fireworks.
You're a New Year's Scrooge.
I am a New Year's Scrooge.
No, that's totally understandable, I think.
Yeah.
Well, like so much so that
or you're either a New Year's Scrooge or a dog.
Well, like I don't want to go off on it right now, but like I try to just extricate myself from the situation and let other people enjoy it.
That's fine.
Yes.
But yeah. So
and at least in video games you can turn down the volume if you want.
So I'm all for digital fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
One thing
I don't like real golf, but I like golf games.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
Exactly.
I don't want them to take up the space for real golf courses.
Yeah.
The server space is fine. But anyway, but in doing research for this episode, I just have to mention this because I was looking up, best fireworks and games lists, and there was one for Colonization, which is a game I played a shit ton of, which is basically like a civilization game. It's a Sid Meier game, came out. I don't even remember when, early 90s, probably, maybe late 80s. But like, I played so much of that game, and Colonization, probably a game that wouldn't be made today. Like a lot of issues there with Native Americans, and also just, should we role play colonizing like the New World? Probably not. But apparently there are fireworks if you beat the game, which I never did because I was looking at this list and like, man, I don't know how many hours I sunk into Colonization, but a lot, and I definitely never saw that.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we got the 4th of July.
Yeah. It's like Tetris whenever you like beat Tetris, quote unquote, on the Game Boy, and it's like blows off, the rockets turn into
never seen that either.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna say something, Matt?
Yeah, a franchise that I miss so much, Dead Rising, has a bunch of fireworks themed weapons. In Dead Rising, I miss that franchise a lot. But you can combine weapons, and there's a fireworks crossbow where you just combine a crossbow and fireworks and just shoot them into a circular, like hundreds of zombies, and they just explode with blood and also fireworks.
Look, as long as people are impressed by particle effects, we will continue to see fireworks in video games. And glowing little pixels that fly over the screen are always going to be enticing. So I don't think fireworks in games are going anywhere anytime soon.
I actually thought you said Tetris, and that made me think of Tetris Effect. I don't know if they're actually, like, 'cause I haven't gotten through every level in Tetris Effect because I'm not that great at Tetris. But it definitely is a fireworks feeling game, even if there aren't necessarily fireworks in it.
There is one. I think when you beat
Okay.
the whole thing, there's like a celebration one, and then every time you clear a line, fireworks go off. And
Awesome.
The visuals are totally affected by it. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
If you're listening right now and you're like, man, how did those guys talk about fireworks in video games for 15 minutes? We did it. And also, let us know about your favorite fireworks games too.
Yeah, because there are a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There definitely are. They're pretty common in video games. I think that's worth a discussion on its own.
No, you know what? I think we could probably not do another whole episode.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. Discovered it.
I think this is the one.
Okay. Well, yeah. Like Matt said, I mean, unless there's anything else about this that we haven't gotten a chance to say, please chime in now. But yeah, like Matt said, we'd love to hear, your favorite fireworks in video games or your memories associated with New Year's in video games, or if you have any goals, or if there's something we said that struck you, let us know. And I think that does it for our talk on New Year's resolutions in games and fireworks in games. And we'll take another short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. Since we've taken 2 weeks off and Christmas has happened, I've got a fair amount of things to talk about. So I'll try to go quick. My son got Mario Party Superstars for Christmas, and so we've been playing a fair amount of that actually, which is quite enjoyable.
Let's play, Patrick. I'd love to play with you guys.
I would be down. I actually really enjoying it. He also got Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. My mom gave him the Luigi one, and I was kind of on the fence, and when I encouraged her to get the Luigi one because it was on discount, and I wasn't sure if he would really get into it, but he got super into it, so much so that I got on Craigslist and found a $20 Mario one.
Nice.
So that we could,
car?
So that we could, no, it was the whole set.
Nice.
Honestly,
Oh, wow.
hot tip right now. I think this is going to happen to a lot of people because the guy was like, yeah, I got this for my kids and they weren't really that into it. So I just wanted to try to make some money back. And he had lowered the price a couple times.
Wow.
So I bet you that this game has been selling really well because it's been on sale. And I think that that's going to happen a lot. It's the kind of game that people will, not
get tired of
and sell.
Yeah.
And I bet you, if you're interested in this game but on the fence, you could probably search your Facebook markets and your Craigslist and find a cheap one because it was really good condition just for $20.
That's another one, Patrick, that we should play. Invite me over.
Yeah, you should come over because we can play.
I would like that.
Player.
We'll do a Pflugerville date.
We have a really nice house for it, and my son is super into it. But it's so funny too because he'll build these things to go with it, like with his blocks and stuff, and it just makes it harder for us.
Yeah,
I'm like, the computers can just go right through that.
Do you have a pet?
We have cats, and so
cats.
the cat Searle is in the way. It's great.
They both love and hate the game. It's awesome.
So what else did I want to mention? Well, I got to mention Animal Crossing New Horizons. Just like Jack said, I actually spent this past New Year's in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Went to Summer. Shout out to Summer. Hosted a little New Year's event on their island. And my wife and I went and we did the countdown there. And you're right, Jack. It does feel like you have friends.
yeah. It's very wholesome. It's nice.
Yeah, and it was kind of a fun way to do the countdown and all that. Cool. There were fireworks and
that was Seaman back in the day for me. Back when I didn't have real friends, Seaman was.
You were friends with Seaman specifically.
Yeah, on Dreamcast. Yeah. He was my best friend.
Did they have New Year's on Seaman on Dreamcast?
I don't know, but I certainly would talk to him every day.
In David's heart, they did.
And then I'll talk about Shin Megami Tensei 5 on the next Optimal Fusion. But I also did want to mention that after the last episode where we talked about the games we were playing, I talked about being in Elite Smash. I went on a hideous losing streak.
Oh no!
I think it's because I got my ego involved.
Yeah, hubris.
And then, and then I was like, the more I lost, the more I was like, no, I can't lose. But I've gotten back. But it was a really funny experience to and I think I really probably deserve to be on the edge. It's kind of frustrating place to be because I play so much random matches. I like to rematch people, but when you go into Elite Smash, you can't rematch somebody, and when you fall out of it, you can't. So I get in a lot of these situations where I'm stuck there, but whatever. Anyway, that's a lot. Somebody else go.
I'll go next. I've been playing lots of random shit. Got some cool stuff for Christmas. My sister got me the Grand Theft Auto, the Definitive Edition, the trilogy. I messed that up a little bit, but there's a lot of these in the title.
The quote-unquote Definitive Edition.
Yeah, right. So that was like a Switch game. She was like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, just get me GTA trilogy, because that's like a game that like I know I shouldn't buy. You know what I mean? And that's a game that I'm not going to buy for myself, but if someone else bought it for me, I would play it. And I have, and it's fun, and it is shitty. It's like, it's just as buggy and broken as everybody says it is, especially on the Switch. But I knew it would be a game that I would play like primarily in handheld, and handheld runs a lot better than it does on docked, and it's like a smaller pixel count, so it's like less obvious how terrible it looks. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know, it turns out that it's like GTA 3 is such like a bare bones game compared to modern open world games. You know, and the open world, which when I was a kid felt fucking massive, is like tiny, you know, compared to modern games. So it's like kind of a fun game, GTA 3 specifically, to play like while watching something else. You know what I mean? Just like do missions like while you're doing it, while you're doing something else. So I'm enjoying it for that reason, and I'll probably dip into the other ones at another point. But those are games that I just like are good to have on the Switch just to pick up and play, right? So I'm enjoying that. I did play a little bit of Gang Beasts with Chris McKeever. He had like kind of a New Year's Day gaming marathon thing. The only one I was unfortunately the only one I was able to play was Gang Beasts, but I had a great time playing that game on Game Pass with them. And then what else? I got the Breath of the Wild DLC finally. My dad got me, I don't know if you can see back there, for Christmas, this like Breath of the Wild strategy guide that's like hardbound and like a special edition or whatever. So that was finally the impetus I needed to like buy the Master Quest and like replay the game on like a harder difficulty. So I'm doing that right now, kind of off and on, jumping in every once in a while. And then yeah, I'd say really the game I've been playing the most of, and this is a game I just kind of got myself over Christmas, was Grindstone. Which we were talking about earlier, is on Apple Arcade. It's a mobile game originally. Definitely feels like a mobile game, you know, it feels like a lot of mobile puzzle games, but it's just like really, really, really well done and like very fully featured. And I'm a big puzzle game guy. I love Picross and all that shit. And so this is like really scratching a bunch of itches. It's super, super addicting. And like, you know, the graphics, I don't know if I'm like a huge like fan necessarily of like the graphics or the style of it. I mean, it's very much like kind of Pendleton Ward Adventure Time-ish. I don't know exactly. There's like an aesthetic for that, and it's hard to like noodle arms and like big features and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's
tiny
kind of
little
got like
dot eyes and
everything
looks like it's been drawn with marker. And
yeah, I mean it's kind of hard. You can kind of see here on the icon here. It's like it's very like watercolor aesthetic, and it's an interesting look. But regardless of what you think about the style, it's like super clean, and you could tell all this work has been put into the music, the sound design, the graphics, and everything. And then just the gameplay of it in and of itself, which I couldn't ever really suss out when I was watching videos of it, like exactly how the game works. But now that I've actually played it, it's like, oh, this is incredibly fun. And it's like a great puzzle game. It's kind of like a match color puzzle type game that doesn't have a timer and like really lets you take your time and try to figure out the best paths to do things. And so, yeah, it's going to be hard for me to like really explain all the ins and outs of the gameplay, but I really very much enjoy that game and recommend it. I missed it when it was on sale. I bought it full price, and I can safely say it's totally worth the $20 on Switch. Very full featured with lots of unlockables and everything like that. So yeah, I recommend Grindstone. Matt, what about you? What have you been playing?
Lots of indies, lots of games on Game Pass. Jack, you mentioned it. Had some free time, had a week and a half, maybe a little bit more from work, and played lots of video games. I finished It Takes Two. Man, what a game that is so good and incredible and not approachable if you're a new gamer at all.
Did you play that with your partner?
I played it with my partner, and it was a growing part of our relationship to get through a game where someone who's not used to twin joysticks and like precision aiming and movement and camera movement, It is not an easy game to pick up as if it's your 5th game that you played in your
It's
life.
a long game too.
It really is. I thought it was going to end many times. It didn't. But
He
eventually,
returned the king. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was just so impressed by It Takes Two. Just the
Mhm.
world and the characters and the voice acting and the animation, just one of the best. I wanted to spend more time in the world. If it's just got so much potential to be like a series, a TV show, just to like grow two people together and how they drift apart. It's such a good game. You just owe it to yourself to play It Takes Two. I also took a few recommendations from y'all. Played Unpacking. Knocked it out in a couple hours. Love it. Non-traditional
good.
storytelling. God, so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. I played Unpacking.
Very satisfying game too.
Oh my
Just
God.
kind of organize things. And, yeah.
Just on a sound design perspective alone.
Oh, totally.
It's
Yeah.
When compared to It Takes Two, Unpacking is a game that's very approachable and easy to play if you're a
Yes.
new gamer. And so my partner and I kind of went off and on and to talk about it and to play it together.
That's fun.
And the nonlinear storytelling that it shows through the gameplay is so good. I played that. Started Deathloop. I'm 6 hours into it, and there's a reveal that happens later in the story, and I had to turn off some online components because I was getting destroyed by actual real people who are good at the game. And that was fun. And what else? What else did I play?
You played XO1, right?
I
Did
played
you like
XO1. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
everyone needs to play XO1. It's so
Is that
chill.
the one where you're going up and down on like hills and valleys and
Yeah.
Yeah.
But essentially it's like you're like this marble, and you're exploring planets, but the marble can turn flat into like a spaceship. So it's both like a very satisfying like Marble Madness kind of game.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like Flight of the Navigator. Did you ever see that movie when you were a kid?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the kind of it was like early CG ship design, right? Like it kind of feels like you're playing that movie a little bit. But it's got its own like weird momentum based stuff, right? Like
Yeah. XO1 EXOONE.
yeah.
It's on Game Pass. You can finish it in a couple of hours.
oh, it's on Game Pass. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to pick it up.
It's like a perfect Game Pass game. It's one that's like not long and you just play it and you're like, oh shit, this is like a cool discovery.
Is it on Game Pass PC or just on Xbox? You know,
Great question. I'm not sure.
No
I
idea.
played it on
all I've got is PC.
It's a very calming game. Despite some of the tense, the cinematics, it's just a very chill, physics-based, calm game. I just really enjoyed it. So
Good luck figuring out what the story is also, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. But David, thanks for the recommendation. And also shout out to Lee too. He was telling me about this game, trying to explain what XO1 is. And I was not following at all. Following like a marble across a planet doesn't make any sense until you play it.
Looks like it is on PC. It's at least on Steam, so I bet it's on Game Pass for PC.
Jack, you're up. What games have you been playing?
The game that I've been playing the most recently has been Returnal on PS5. Excellent game. Very hard though. So I've managed to get to the last section of the game. I've gotten to what I assume is the final boss a couple times, but it's brutal, and every run takes you so long to like get to, whatever your destination is, and it's rough, but it's so well done, and the combat's really engaging. It's so despite the occasional frustrations of it, I keep coming back to it. So that's on my. That's a game that I need to finish that so that I can move on to playing more.
It's a
games.
resolution.
Yeah. Returnal. I also recently, because it was on sale for like a couple dollars on the eShop, I got Far Lone Sales, which is an indie game. It looks kind of like a cinematic platformer in the vein of like Inside or Limbo, something like that. Where the whole thing is it's narrative and it's very beautiful and cinematic, and you're always moving left to right. So it's it's side scrolling, but it's 3D. Um, but the interesting thing is it's essentially about you crossing this. I guess the story is very vague, but it's like a post-apocalyptic desert setting essentially, and you're in this big vehicle that has an internal engine, but also a sail, and you have to essentially the whole game is you trying to cross the desert, and you have to manage and kind of repair and keep running this machine the whole time, and then occasionally run into an obstacle, and you have to get out and solve some puzzles to turn on an elevator or drop a bridge or get some obstacle out of the way. And it's
I heard really great things about that game. Yeah,
it's really interesting. The visuals are gorgeous, and there's a sequel I think coming out later this year. So
awesome.
But yeah, definitely highly recommend that. I haven't finished it yet, but it's very good. I picked up Chicory on PS5. Really enjoying that. It's a very different sort of game, but it's very good. It's very relaxing because basically the whole game is a coloring book, and you can color anything at any time, and it's it doesn't there are puzzles involved in coloring certain things and things like that, but you can also just color as treat it like a coloring book, and it's very just kind of nice and relaxing.
Does that kind of scratch, because I've been trying to put my finger on what kind of game that is, does that scratch the kind of Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion itch, where it's you're kind of or like Splatoon almost, where it's it feels satisfying to cover everything or clean everything up? Is it kind of like that?
Yeah. It's kind of something like that crossed with a sort of Zelda-like.
Okay, cool.
There's no combat, but there are puzzles, and it's a top-down world, and there's exploration to it.
Jack, have you played Wandersong?
I have it on Switch, and I haven't played it yet.
I'm
a big
developer, right? Yeah, it is, and I'm a big Wandersong fan, but I'm not played Chicory, and I'm wondering if there's similar elements or if it's a completely different game or what.
I mean, they're both definitely and I don't have any experience really with Wandersong, but they're both about kind of creativity.
Both non-violent games as well, right?
Yeah, both non-violent, just sort of story, wholesome.
There's some violence in Wandersong, but
is there really?
But it's okay. But it's but you're right. It's a non-violent,
non-combat.
Maybe it's in the theme is non-violence. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, and also the music is great, done by Lena Raine, who did Celeste.
Hell yeah!
So excellent soundtrack. So I'm looking forward to finishing that one. And the last one that I most recently started playing is, as I said, I want to start playing more VR games because I feel like I've played maybe a half dozen really good VR games, but there are so many out there that I just haven't gotten around to actually picking up and playing. And one of them that I mean to get to is Lone Echo, which it's an Oculus exclusive. It's a really, really good sci-fi first-person narrative adventure game, essentially, and it all takes place in zero gravity. So the way you navigate is by physically reaching out and grabbing things in the environment and pulling yourself through the world. And it takes a minute to get used to, but after a while, you get used to it. It's super cool, and
it's not on Quest.
It is not on Quest, unfortunately. I'm playing it on my Quest, but via
the cable.
On my computer.
That sounds right up my alley. I've been watching I've been mainlining The Expanse. Totally caught up.
Totally. Yeah.
Season 6. So I'm in the headspace to do some zero G shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So essentially, it takes place on a space station, and you play as an android, essentially, a kind of a mechanical assistant AI. And there's one human character in the game that's actually very well convincingly animated. It's not it's still VR, so they have to turn down the fidelity to a certain extent to make it run well. But she's all the acting is great and the writing is great. The environments are beautiful. And I think that your character is voiced by Troy Baker, I believe. So he does a really good job.
Nice.
And yeah, so I haven't finished it yet, but I'm loving it so far and definitely recommend it. It's one of the few. I feel like most VR games tend to be lower budget and sort of low poly, or they tend to feel more like tech demos, and there aren't as many VR games that feel fully fledged, kind of big budget, well polished games. And this game and like Half-Life Alyx are the two that I feel like I've played that feel the most polished, feel more like the most like, this is a fully realized experience.
Killer apps.
Yeah, totally, definitely. Yeah, so highly recommended there. So.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it for this week's show then. Thank you so much, Jack, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been great. It's been a lot of fun. And
thanks to milkyway.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me online, you can find me most places as PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Jack? Where can people find you online?
Best place to find me is probably my personal website where I have all my links. It's just jack-ford.com.
Hell yeah. Nailed it. Great American name, by the way, Jack.
Thank you.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. I'll let my parents know you appreciate my name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Tell them that I appreciate your name too. Make sure you throw
Make sure you say Matthew Stoner specifically.
Yeah, and they'll be like, okay, I don't know who that is, but
he's very famous. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. And if you'd like to find our communities and join those, we'd love to have you. We've got links to the Discord and our Facebook group in the description of this YouTube video or podcast, wherever you're listening to it. And if you haven't yet, make sure you do follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We do video shit, and we've been doing it for the past year. It's been popping off. Love to do it. It's definitely my preferred way to watch podcasts and stuff like that. I like to see people's faces. So please shoot us a follow. Even if you do primarily listen to us on audio, we would really appreciate that. Folks, that's going to do it for the episode. What a fun thing. Who knew there were so many fireworks games and so many resolutions to be made in the new year? It was a delight to talk to all you guys. We're going to be back next week with an all brand new episode. Can't wait. We've got a whole bunch of great stuff planned for 2022, right, guys? And it's going to be a wonderful year. We're not slowing down anytime soon. And we love having you guys listen to us week after week. So thanks once again for that. We'll see you guys next week. We love you. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
I love fireworks just the same reason that everyone loves them, because they're so pretty to look at, pretty to watch.